The last American forces will be out of Iraq by the end of the year. And former Army Captain Matt Gallagher spent 15 months in Iraq. He began blogging about his experiences soon after he arrived in 2007 as a lieutenant. His blog was enormously popular with fellow soldiers. Then in 2008, the Army shut down his blog. And last year, those stories were published as a book. It's called Kaboom, Embracing the Suck in a Savage Little War. So, author Matt Gallagher joins me now from New York. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Doing okay?
Good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You are the senior writing manager for Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, the IAVA. So, Matt, the question is, what's going through your head now? You've been there. The troops are coming home. You see the remaining troops. They'll be home soon. How does that feel?
Very surreal time, I'm sure, not just for myself, but for all veterans of Iraq. Not being there, there's a sense of closure, of course, but seeing the images of the bases where, when I was over there, 150,000 Americans were in country, and now they're complete ghost towns. It's a very odd feeling.
Let's be honest here. If anyone has had any chance to travel over the last couple of weeks and you see the troops coming home from Iraq and some coming home from Afghanistan, and you know they're going to be home with their kids, and you see the families rushing to embrace them and the tears, you can't help but be moved by that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially during this time of the holidays, it's like Santa Claus coming home, a real-life Santa Claus coming home to their kids. Every one of those men and women are heroes. Not only for their families, but for this country. It's very poignant and touching.
Matt, was it worth it? Was the fight worth it?
It's a great question, Don, and something that historians will be debating for decades. Right now, the legacy of these wars, the reality is it's going to play out in home fronts of two countries, both in Iraq, as you talked about in the segment before this one, and back here in the States. We have returning veterans coming home to record numbers of unemployment, trying to get back to school with the new GI Bill. Kind of how my generation of veterans are reincorporated back into American society will really have kind of a huge impact of the legacy of this war.
We've been talking about your blog. It was enormously popular and it was shut down. Why did the Army shut down your blog?
Yeah, for about 6 months I was keeping a blog talking about the comings and goings of my platoon in Iraq. We were stationed at a small outpost just north of Baghdad. And I wrote about a conversation I had with my battalion commander that was perhaps a little too frank and honest. They pulled the plug on it, which they had the right to do technically. I hadn't committed any operational security violations, so kind of a debate ensued about social media playing out in a combat zone. And I came back, did the remaining 9 months of my tour in Iraq, as honorably and bravely as I could with my men. Came back, transitioned out of the service, and was lucky enough to write a book about it.
Yeah. What was the benefit? Do you think people, the men and women, or even their families, or people who just wanted to know, what was the benefit? Do you think they got anything out of the blog?
I hope so. I hope that by putting names and experiences down, on the internet, served as a connection for Americans that weren't directly connected to these wars.
Realizing it's real because you were there.
Absolutely. Yeah. The boy next door. We all were. We were just trying to do the best we could.
Can I ask you this? And I want to read. It's an excerpt from your book, and it's about the capture of a high-value terrorist known as Mohammed the Ghost. All right. You were surprised when you actually saw him. You said you wrote that he probably could have been captured much earlier by setting a trap with, quote, you said, Xboxes, a few porn mags, and some weed. Explain that to us.
Right. Yeah, no, when I went over there in 2007, I had a very powerful image of who the bad guy was, right? Kind of the looked a lot like Osama bin Laden, diehard jihadists, wanted to kill everything that I held dear. Certainly those men existed here and there, but most of the insurgents that we dealt with on a day-to-day basis during my time in Iraq were kids, trying to put bread on the table. Sometimes they'd been hired by older insurgents to plant bombs, to pull triggers, and there was some empathy that we developed for those guys. At the same time, there's only so much empathy you can have for those people when they're actively trying to kill you. So it was a very ambiguous, gray experience for all of us. and realizing that, as with all wars, the ones that started it aren't the ones fighting it.
Hey, I have a couple seconds here. Matt, what's on your lapel?
Yeah, I'm rocking my combat action badge that I earned with the Army in Iraq, and my IAVA pin, the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, which is a veteran service organization that I'm not only proud to be a member of, but also work for.
Matt Gallagher, thanks for coming on. Most of all, thanks for your service, okay?
Thanks for having me on, Don. Appreciate it.
Investigators ID the man.